Hi, I'm Angela Fair. Today I wanted to answer a question from one of my students, and this is one of the students from my online courses, which you can view at learn.angelafair.com. And this student was asking about my favorite pink to use, and pink is a little bit difficult of a color because you don't just go out and buy a pink paint. And as I'm saying that, I know you're looking right here at this one right here, which is obviously very pink, and that is Opera Pink from Daniel Smith right here. And Opera Pink is an amazing color. We'll just show you what it looks like here. That's a light shade of it, and you can see it almost has a neon tinge to it. It's that just really bright saturated pink shade, which is really pretty, and I really like Opera Pink. Straight from the tube, it's even a little bit brighter. That's just a bit of the wet pigment right there. And while I ordinarily do keep my paint in my palette, I do, if I want a really saturated color, that's when I go straight to the tube. So you can see it's a beautiful, vibrant pink. And then of course it does fade away into a lovely, soft pink. The deal with Opera Pink is not everyone's comfortable using it because of its light fastness rating. And I think it's on here somewhere. Yes, light fastness is 4, and the higher the number, the less light fast it is, which means it will fade over time. Whatever it is that they use to make Opera Pink is not a permanent kind of hue. It does fade. Personally, I've been using Opera Pink for several years, and I haven't noticed dramatic fading in the paintings that I've made using it. And I'm very careful with my watercolors. I don't hang them in direct sunlight if I can help it. And if they are going to be in sunlight, I try to use a UV protected glass. Things like that will extend the life of your paint and just cause it to stay vibrant longer. But if you, so I don't want to let light fastness stop me from enjoying a particular color. But you might not be like me. You might think that, colors should stay as vibrant as the day you bought them, in which case you're going to want to avoid this color. But there are other options for pink. And another one I like is this quinacridone Magenta. And the one I'm using is made by Core Watercolors by Golden. Let's see, I think I have a tube nearby here, right here. And Core is a brand new brand that has only been around for a little while, and they have extreme vibrance in their colors. And look at how bright that is. Very clearly magenta. And with watercolor, you add water to lighten the color. So I just could bleed that right out. It's got a little bit more of a violet color. It's not quite as much of a true pink, maybe. The other thing I like about the Core Magenta, quinacridone Magenta, is that it has flow. So if I touch a color into a wet wash, just look at how it moves. So that is a really fun color to use. Very vibrant magenta, kind of bluish pink tone. And then I've got my alizarin crimson, which is a little more of a red tone. And this used to be the only red in my palette. And of course, if you have a red paint and you want to make it pink in any other medium, you would add white. With watercolor, you just add water. So to get a pink, you're gonna add water and just bleed that out. And as you can see, it's more of a reddish pink. It's just a little bit darker, kind of a cranberry-ish color, and so it's not as pinky pink when you flow it out. So if you're looking for more of a true pink, you're better off with maybe the Quin Magenta than the alizarin crimson. A few other colors in my palette that I could use to make pink, and actually I have a couple tubes here that look pink on the label, so we'll try those out as well. First we're going to just try some of this quinacridone coral, and this is from Daniel Smith, and this is definitely a coral tone, so you can see it's very clear and a little more yellow than this blue pink which we talked about. So if you're going to use that to make a pink, you can see it's a lovely soft rose. That's quinacridone coral by Daniel Smith. So I like that shade of pink, and I could see using that for roses. It also would pair really well with yellows to make a lovely skin tone. So, and another good option. Another color I love, and this isn't going to give you a pink, and I have mentioned it before in my other videos, but Venetian red. And I'm just going to mention it here. I mean, clearly it's very orange, but the thing I like about Venetian red is it does fade to a very soft kind of peachy color when you flow it out. And so, you know, pink, peach, we're looking for soft pastels. It's one that's good to be aware of and have in your arsenal. And then we'll just pull out a couple of these colors by Daniel Smith. This is Rhodonite Genuine, and I'm just gonna, I actually haven't used it in a very long time, so I'm not even sure what it looks like in here. But yeah, it's kind of a rose color, so we'll just put a dab of it right on the paper, and then we'll add some water and see what it does. And then the other one I want to try, because it's got a little pink on the label. Oh, the lids are just such a pain. Is this Potter's Pink color by Daniel Smith. Daniel Smith tends to use a lot of like minerals and sedimentary stuff, you know, to formulate their paints, and I kind of love that whole gritty feel where you're adding color, and it's, well, you can see it with the Opera Pink. Actually, it kind of granulates and gives you this fascinating texture. I like that about my Daniel Smith paints, and that's one of the reasons I use them. With this quinacridone magenta, you get a lot softer, smoother transitions. It doesn't granulate the same way. So it's something else to be aware of when you're using paint. I'm mentioning that because these two colors, the Rhodonite, whoops, wrong one, the Potter's Pink and the Rhodonite, both are very sedimentary. And so you can see as I pull that color out, actually that is quite a nice pink. But the thing I think I didn't care for as much about the Rhodonite was it just felt a little bit too hard to pull it around. See, I'm really having to work to move it. And but it's really quite pretty. I might have to add that to my palette again. Sometimes you buy a color and you're not crazy about it, and then a few years down the road or months you try it again and you just love it. So sometimes you're just not ready for it. And that is a really lovely soft color, but I just find it doesn't have the same movement. The color tends to sit where this, as soon as we touched it, it went poof across the wet paper, and the Rhodonite doesn't do that so much. It doesn't poof. And here's the Potter's Pink, and you can see it's the same thing. As soon as I start adding water, it doesn't really go anywhere. The alizarin's already wanting to move in. And this is kind of a more, definitely a more sedimentary color. And they call it Potter's Pink, I believe, because it's actually made from clay. It has clay in it. And so you can see it's just, it's minerals, I think, just suspended in whatever it is that they use to formulate watercolor paint. There's probably a list on here. Yeah, it's chromatin pink sphene in a gum arabic solution, and so it just, the gum arabic keeps it kind of you know, like paint. It gives it that kind of jelly kind of texture, or toothpaste kind of texture, and you can see it's actually very fine particles and it's very granular. So again, fantastic for making textures in you know, maybe a beach scene or a road or something, or rock. But as for making, you know, if I wanted to paint a rose, this wouldn't be the first one I'd pick. I am loving this quinacridone coral. I haven't used it for roses yet, but I'm definitely going to add it to my list of colors I want to use when I'm painting florals, because that's just beautiful. Quinacridone magenta, very vibrant. Rhodonite Genuine surprised me. It doesn't have that same flow and dynamic that that the Quin Magenta does, but it's sure a lovely soft pink. And then, of course, like I said, the Opera Pink is just a lot of fun, even though it may fade over time. One more color I just want to show you, and this is just for me being self-indulgent, because this is another color that's really fun. It's kind of like one of those, what do you call it, little treat to yourself when you have a color like this. This is Rose of Ultramarine from Daniel Smith. And you can see it's a purple, but it's actually a combination of a purple or of a blue and a pink. And so when this color gets wet, it starts to flow, these colors will actually separate, the blue and the pink that made this original purple. And as it dries, you will get a lovely dynamic, this interplay between the blue and the pink paint that's in there. And they want to separate and kind of break up instead of being a couple where you can't tell where one ends and the other begins, you start getting this beautiful exchange of blue and pink pigments in the paint, and it's gorgeous to see. But that's the Rose of Ultramarine from Daniel Smith. And it's just a really fun color if you're wanting a dynamic color, kind of in this same blue, pink and purple and rose colored family. It would make great shadows for a pink, for example. So that's one good reason why I mentioned it now.